Our climate is changing, and we all feel the impacts. Increased heat, drought, and extreme storms affect our livelihoods, our health, our air and water, property, and businesses. As climate impacts grow, federal, state, and local governments are responding with laws and policies. Communities and businesses are taking their own actions, and so are individuals. Many of these actions are ending up in court. Climate law, policy, and science are central to thousands of cases which have already been filed in 49 states. More are being brought in international courts and in countries around the world, too. As the number of cases grows, it's essential that judges be prepared to meet the challenge. The Climate Judiciary Project was created to address this need.
Science is central to many lawsuits. These include medicine, forensics, neuroscience, and yes, climate. So what does the climate science say? Scientists agree our planet is warming. This is happening because of rising levels of greenhouse gases. These gases act like a blanket and trap heat in the atmosphere, and the primary source of these gases is the burning of fossil fuels. This means that it is we, humans, who are responsible for the warming of our planet. The science is unequivocal.
How do we know? Scientists have investigated every cause they could think of. They've considered decades of direct observations of the temperature, of the air, the land, and the ocean. They've measured the sea level and the amount of ice in polar regions. They have performed thousands of studies of the climate over the last million years and run sophisticated computer models of Earth's climate system. They have concluded that there is no other explanation. The planet is warming, and humans are the cause. This is not the conclusion of just a handful of scientists. Thousands of climate experts from around the world agree. Scientists also agree that a warming planet will cause more frequent and more extreme weather and climate events. As these impacts become more intense and more costly, more cases will enter the courtroom. Climate science will be critical as parties try to prove who's responsible. For example, should someone pay for the damage from a particular extreme weather event, like a heat wave or a flood? Was it caused or made more likely by greenhouse gas emissions? And was it attributable to any particular source of emissions? Continued advances in this area of climate research will only bring more cases to the courts.
So what do these cases look like? There's no one typical case, claim, defense, or remedy. And right now, there's no template for how the scientific or legal issues unfold because the cases are so varied. They involve a range of parties, including governments, NGOs, industry, and individuals. They also involve a range of claims, including constitutional, statutory, regulatory, administrative, and common law. One of the most common types of cases concerns the environmental impacts of certain planning and permitting decisions, and that includes climate impacts. What does that mean in practice? Let's take a federally funded bridge project as an example. Before the federal agency approves the project, it must consider how the bridge might affect climate change and how climate change might affect the bridge. This could mean analyzing the impacts of greenhouse gas emissions from increased car traffic, and on the flip side, considering the impacts of flooding and sea level rise on the operation and maintenance of the bridge itself. If those findings were to be legally challenged, the judge would take a hard look at the scientific methods used to calculate both the greenhouse gas emissions and sea level rise. Climate science is coming up more and more in other kinds of cases too. For example, a judge in Montana held a trial about the constitutionality of a state environmental law. Climate scientists testified about climate change and its impact on Montanans. A judge in Vermont looked at similar evidence when car dealers and manufacturers challenged the state's emission standards for motor vehicles. And a number of California courts took sea level rise into consideration, when property owners fought the state's requirements for coastal property development. But these are far from the only kinds of cases. Climate science plays a role in cases about wildlife and their habitats, utility regulation and energy pricing, the siting and development of clean energy projects, insurance claims, and more.
As our climate continues to change, we know there will be more cases coming to courtrooms that will require judges to consider climate science. Judges have made it a priority to inform themselves about new topics influencing legal trends through conferences and continuing education programs. They've asked for content on climate science. The Climate Judiciary Project is answering that call. We don't participate in litigation. We do not support or coordinate with parties in litigation. We're an independent, nonpartisan organization that works to ensure that judges are equipped with the educational tools they need to better understand the science that comes before them. To learn more and access the curriculum, go to cjp.eli.org.